The Premier League's inquiry into the financial fair play breaches of Manchester City might not have been the primary concern for their ecstatic players and fans, who were celebrating their remarkable achievement of winning the coveted Champions League trophy and completing a historic treble a month ago. However, it's important to remember that there's still over 100 allegations of rule violations looming in the background. So what exactly are these charges, and what implications could they have for City if they're proven to be true? Before delving into these questions, we kindly ask you to consider subscribing to our channel, as it would greatly assist us in continuing to provide you with the highest quality content. It's not the first instance where Manchester City has clashed with the authorities. In 2020, they were initially banned from participating in European football competitions for 2 seasons due to serious breaches of club licensing and financial fair play regulations. However, the ban was later overturned by the Court of Arbitration for Sport, although they did find City guilty of failing to cooperate with UEFA authorities. As a result, the original fine of €30 million was reduced to €10 million. This turn of events significantly undermined the credibility of UEFA's financial fair play rules. Interestingly, just 15 months prior, UEFA had already suffered a defeat against Paris Saint-Germain at the same Court of Arbitration for Sport. These cases highlighted the formidable challenge that nation-state clubs, with their limitless resources and legal leverage, pose to UEFA and its governing bodies. For now, it appears that Manchester City will proceed with their summer plans as usual without any major disruptions. However, critics will likely continue to highlight the extensive list of accusations against the club, despite their vehement denial of any wrongdoing. If found guilty, City could face various penalties, including fines, point deductions, or even expulsion from the league. However, expulsion is unlikely, and the exact time frame for the resolution of these matters remains uncertain, potentially stretching out over several years. Now let's rewind to February and examine the events that unfolded. In a rather unassuming manner, the Premier League made an astonishing announcement in a 736-word statement. This statement, tucked away beneath articles on fantasy Premier League tips on their website, disclosed that Manchester City had been referred to an independent commission due to alleged violations of rules. These allegations pertain to a series of supposed financial breaches spanning from the 2009-10 season to the 2017-18 season. The Premier League accuses City of providing inaccurate financial information, particularly regarding their revenue, including sponsorship revenue, related parties, and operating costs. Furthermore, the club is alleged to have withheld complete disclosure of managerial remuneration during the 4-year period when Roberto Mancini was in charge. Additionally, City is accused of violating Premier League regulations on profit and sustainability. On top of all of this, the Premier League claims that City did not comply with UEFA's regulations regarding club licensing and financial fair play. However, Manchester City expressed their surprise at these charges from the Premier League and denied any failure to fully cooperate with the investigation. Still today, the club remains resolute in their determination to defend themselves against these allegations and exudes confidence in their ability to do so. Therefore, what are the possible repercussions that Manchester City might face if they're proven guilty? The potential sanctions are outlined in Rule W51 of the Premier League's handbook, providing a range of options for the panel to consider in the event of rule violations by City. These penalties encompass anything from a reprimand and fines to points deductions and, in the most severe cases, expulsion from the Premier League itself. If a points deduction were to be imposed, it could be enforced either at the time of the verdict or applied retroactively, which raises the unsettling possibility of City being stripped of titles they've previously won. It's worth noting that all the accusations are centered around the period between 2009 and 2018. Therefore, it would appear that any point deductions would pertain to the seasons within that particular time frame. Regarding the timeline, considering that the Premier League's investigation into City spanned over 4 years, it is highly unlikely that the independent panel will reach a conclusion in the near future. The process itself, as evident from February, has the potential to stretch out for months, if not longer. In the event that either Manchester City or the Premier League opts to appeal to the panel's verdict, a separate panel would convene to review the appeal. This appeals process would grant City ample time to respond to the allegations. Consequently, their ongoing legal challenge is expected to prolong the official proceedings, extending the resolution of this matter from months to potentially years. Thus, we are far from discovering whether Manchester City will face any punishments should they be found guilty of the alleged breaches levelled against them by the Premier League. The entire process is likely to require a significant amount of time before a definitive settlement is reached. Is it possible for other clubs to sue Manchester City if they are proven guilty? In such a scenario where Manchester City is found to have violated all the rules accused by the Premier League, it is reasonable to anticipate other clubs showing interest, particularly those who finished second to City, missed out on a Champions League spot, or were defeated by City in a cup final. One sports lawyer expressed the opinion that it would be difficult for City's domestic rivals to pursue legal claims based on football regulations. However, this viewpoint was contested by another sports lawyer. Furthermore, a club executive believed that there could be potential grounds for legal claims if City is found guilty. This disagreement underscores the contentious nature of the situation, which will undoubtedly arise once the Commission's findings are disclosed. A prominent precedent of one club suing another is the well-known Sheffield United and West Ham case involving Carlos Tevez. Following Sheffield United's relegation in 2007, they argued that Tevez's goals helped West Ham avoid relegation, despite the London club previously being fined by the Premier League for breaching rules on third-party player ownership. Sheffield United was eventually awarded £20 million, taking into account various factors such as broadcast revenues, sponsorship, merchandising, and ticket sales. City's continued dominance is leading some to look again at the charges against them, with a British newspaper column raising the question of whether they are the greatest team or one built on years of cheating. Meanwhile, the Premier League remains completely tight-lipped about the case, but the 4+ years the investigation took shows how seriously this has been dealt with. Under the surface, tensions are evident, and the eventual conclusion has the potential to ignite a significant controversy. If the panel ultimately delivers a guilty verdict, it's highly likely that City will pursue arbitration hearings, followed by potential appeals in the High Court and the Court of Appeal. Concurrently, other Premier League clubs would seek the most severe punishments, including the possibility of expulsion. Private discussions among individual clubs have even raised the prospect of legal action, as Premier League regulations do permit clubs to sue one another. On the other hand, if the punishment is perceived as weak, there is a prevailing belief that it could trigger a mutiny within the Premier League. This sentiment may persist even if City is exonerated. All of these developments occur against the backdrop of a more volatile atmosphere surrounding the dominance of state-owned clubs in football. While there's no denying the remarkable accomplishments of Pep Guardiola's team on the field, the unresolved charges against Manchester City make it challenging to accurately gauge the extent of praise that should be attributed to their achievements since coming under the ownership of Sheikh Mansour's Abu Dhabi-led consortium. While money talks, jealousy also plays a part. City's fans would argue that their success cannot be solely attributed to their extravagant financial resources, something that they could only dream of a generation ago. Football is full of wealthy clubs boasting star-studded squads that have failed to live up to expectations. However, this accusation can't be levelled at Pep Guardiola's side. They showcase their ability to win crucial matches through both resilient and visually captivating, free-flowing football. While they possess a wealth of individual talent, they also function seamlessly, cohesive team, a characteristic that cannot be taken for granted. Additionally, with Guardiola at the helm, they benefit from one of football's finest tacticians. Having etched their names in the history books as only the second English team to secure the treble, Manchester City's footballing prowess suggests that their dominance is likely to endure for the foreseeable future. Whether you adore, detest, or stand somewhere in between regarding City, their success seems poised to continue in the years to come. We value your perspective on our analysis. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you found this video informative and engaging, we kindly ask that you consider subscribing for future content. Thank you for tuning in.